so today we are making a monthly calendar for our planners in InDesign, of course. I will be creating one basic calendar spread and then two doggy themed variations to give you a few different options. So while I will be creating these as a spread, you can create these calendars as a single page as well if you would prefer a smaller monthly calendar in your planner. The structure is going to be the same. You're just going to be creating a 7-column table instead of 2 different tables. You'll see what I mean in just a minute, so let's get into the computer and start working, shall we? So of course, the first thing we need to do is we need to create our new spread. So we're going to come over here to our pages, hit the plus to create our new spread. We can then go ahead and rename our parent page to monthly calendar. First thing that we are going to do is we are going to create a table. So we're going to come up here to table, create table. Okay, so we're going to be creating a table that is 6 rows by 4 columns. Click OK. And I'm going to come over here to around, looking at my little ruler here, about 1¼ inches down from the page, top of the page, and lined up with my margin. And I'm going to just drag it all the way to the bottom far corner of my margin there. Okay, so now we have our table. Next, what I'm going to do is since this top row is going to be the weekdays, we don't need this much space. So we need to make that top row a little bit smaller. So you're going to come over, you have to still be selected in the table, and come down until you see your little double arrow. Now if you click, hold, and drag as is, it's going to try to resize the entire table. So what you want to do is hold shift. And when you hold shift, you'll just be moving this one line. I'm going to bring this down to just under 1.5, I think will be fine. And we're going to go ahead and we are going to type in our weekdays. Now, what weekdays you choose to go by is up to you. I have seen planners where they will go with the calendar being Monday through Sunday. I always prefer to do your typical calendar, Sunday through Saturday, just because when you're looking at your typical calendar, it can get a little confusing because most people are used to Sunday through Saturday. When it comes to the actual weekdays, like weekly pages, I always start mine Monday and do through Sunday, and that's so that I have the Saturday, Sunday, the weekend together, because a lot of times people either only schedule one or the other, or they schedule very differently and plan very differently on the weekend versus the weekdays. This is totally up to you. Do your research, decide what you want to do, whether you decide what the most popular thing is to do or your preference. This is totally up to you. But for this series and for this planner, we will be doing on the weekday calendars your typical Sunday through Saturday. So with that being said, let's go ahead and let's fill in our weekdays. I am now going to highlight this, and we are going to adjust our font and our text the way we want it to be. So we want it to be centered. We'll go with a 14-point font because this is a big calendar. Let's go with, and again, I'm just picking my stuff. I think, was this the one I went with? Okay, I think this is one of the ones I have there. So let's go with this one as my weekday header. I am also, so I can now go ahead and create a paragraph style for this. You don't have to if you don't want to, because most likely you're just going to be creating this one monthly calendar, and then you're going to be using this one parent page, but we're going to just create styles for everything, just to make it easier for us and to get the practice, right? So let's go ahead to our paragraph styles. And if you don't see the paragraph styles, come up to window, come down to styles, and then click on paragraph styles. So once we have our window open, we're just gonna hit the plus down here. Now we're gonna go to the newly created style and we are going to name it. And I'm going to name this monthly, what should we name it? Monthly calendar headers, monthly calendar headers. All right, and now I also am going to want to go and I'm going to want to make these centered in the cell. So we're going right clicking, cell options, and text, and vertical justification will be centered, so it's in the center of the table. We are now going to remove all of the lines except for the bottom. So make sure all of your lines are lit up blue here, except for the bottom one. And we are going to change it to 0-point font. And now let's hit W to see what it looks like, and there we go. That's what we're going with for right now. So now you can see that our cells are a little bit wonky, and we need to fix this because this one row is a lot bigger than the other rows. So what we're going to do is we are going to highlight all of our rows except for our top header row here. With all of our rows highlighted, you're going to right click and you're going to say distribute rows evenly. And what that's going to do is exactly how it sounds. It's going to make them all the same height. I am then going to, and this is my preference, I'm going to change all of our lines selected here. Very hard to see that. And I'm going to make all these 0.5. I'm going to use my 70% black. This is what we're working with so far. All right, we are getting there. Now we can go ahead. Let's close this. We can go ahead and we can copy this over to the other side. So you just highlight the table, hold Option, hold Shift, click Hold, and drag over to copy it to the other side. Now we're going to go ahead and we are going to change these headers to Thursday. Make sure you spell it right. Thursday. Okay. And Saturday, and then we don't need this last column because, well, there's only 7 days in the week. So you are going to bring your mouse over until you hover over and see an arrow pointing down, and then you are going to click to highlight the entire column. And if you right click, you can go to delete column and it will just delete the column. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to add in our dates. Now, I am going to start with Friday for January. I'm not saying that January 2025 is a Friday start. Don't go by my dates. I just want to show you what it looks like and what you need to do. If you have an extra day that's not fitting in your calendar, you'll see what I mean. We're going to go ahead and start with Friday being the first, then Saturday. Here's one thing I want to note. These are separate tables. So when I hit tab again, it's not going to come all the way over here. It's going to come here, okay? Because these are two different tables. So just keep that in mind when you're adding the numbers in. You can then just click over here and then say 3, 4, 5, 6. And then click over here, or what I usually like to do is I'll say 7, 8, 9, because usually I'm looking at a calendar when I'm doing this. And then I'll say 14, 15, 16, 21, 22, 23, 28, 29, 30. And then what I'll do is I'll come over here, and it's a good way for me to like make sure I'm putting in the right numbers too, because I'll say, okay, 9 after that is 10, 11, 12, 13. The next one should be 14. And now I'm at 17, 18, 19, 20, which means this one should be 21, 24, 25, 26, 27. This is totally up to you, however you want to do it. Just keep in mind they are two different tables. But what I wanted to show you is, if we're saying this is January, there's 31 days in January, but I am at the end right here. So typically what you're going to see in a bigger monthly calendar like this is you're going to see cells divided, whether they're divided diagonally or horizontally. I prefer to do mine horizontally because if you're adding in labels, you're still able to do it. Where diagonally it might be a little more tricky, but this is totally up to you. If you like the way diagonal looks, you could do that too, but let me just show you. You're going to highlight this cell, just this cell, right click. You can now split it horizontally or you can split it vertically. What I do is I just split it horizontally. So you would just right click, come down to split cell horizontally, right? And then you have, it will automatically put the line in there. And then it would automatically create a separate cell out of it so you can come down and just type in your date. Okay, so that's what that would look like. If you did want to split it diagonally, when you right click, you're going to go, it's not going to be an option. You're going to go to Cell Options, Diagonal Lines, and you're going to pick which way you want it to be diagonal. Okay, so you could do it the other way, which if your numbers are on this side, you don't want to do it that way. But if your numbers are on this side, you will. So again, I find it easier to just go ahead and do a horizontal. Totally your preference. Okay, so now that we know how to do that, actually let me also mention that if you've done this and now you're changing, the dates have changed for the next year and you no longer need this, you can merge them, but it does some weird stuff to the cells. Let me just show you. If you merge those cells, yeah, it changes the size. I don't like that. So what you can simply do is you would delete the date out of here, and then you would highlight this cell with the middle cell, so the middle line selected only. You will just get rid of the stroke. And so while technically it's still two cells, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know by looking at it. That's it. That's the easiest way to do it. Like I said, merging changes the size. I don't know why it does that, but it does. Okay, let's work with our numbers in here now. I'm going to just zoom in on one side so you can see a little bit better. Obviously, you can have your numbers on the right. You can have your numbers on the left. And it's simple. It's very, very simple with it highlighted. And I would highly suggest that when you're changing it, you go ahead and you highlight everything, whether there's a number there or not. Because otherwise, when you are changing the dates or you're creating the dates for different months, you may not have the top formatted the same as where those are. You'll add a number and it'll be different. Highlight all the cells, okay? Except for the top. So if you want to change what side the number's on, you quite simply just come down to your paragraph here or your paragraph up here and you hit the right justify. And that's going to move it over. Super simple. I mean, you could do the same. So if you wanted to have it on the bottom for some reason, which I don't know why you would, I've never seen that, but maybe you want something a little bit different and you're like, hey, I want it on the bottom right. You would move it over to the right here. You would right click to cell options and text. You would have to justify it to the bottom. Okay, so maybe you want to do that because that way people can just write at the top instead of having to write from the bottom up. I don't know. Maybe you want to be different. But that's fine. That's how you would do it. Cell options. I would want to show you now how you can add. Let me zoom in even more. Let's say you don't like how close these numbers are to the edge. Maybe you want a little more space here. That is your cell inset. That's how it's set. So to change that, you're going to go ahead and right click and come to your cell options. And let's go to text. I want you to be able to see what I'm doing here. Okay, so your cell insets here, that's how much padding you have here. So watch what happens. I'm just going to increase this and just watch what happens to the numbers as you increase it. So it gets farther and farther from the edge, or you can get it closer if you want, right? If you want a little bit closer so there's more room for writing, you can absolutely do that. This is how you would do it. You then, of course, could create a cell style with those options you've selected and then reuse that if you need to. Let's go ahead. Let's add our header here. We want to center it, and it's going to be a January, right? And we have our headers, our header paragraph style that we created back in episode 4, I believe. And we are going to go ahead and apply that to our monthly header. I want to go ahead. I can create a new text box over here, or I can go ahead and click, drag, and hold over. And I can create a, just do it that way. But I want to resize this because I'm going to add some notes column here. And so I'm going to want this centered just over this. Again, that is why I like using the text box width as a centering tool, if you will. You could, of course, just click this table and, center over that, or you can just resize the box. Okay, so now we are going to create a notes section here. Actually, before we create a notes section here, I'm going to show you how you can go ahead and you can change these a bit. It's pretty similar to our mini calendars that we did in the last episode 6. What we're going to do is we are going to highlight our weekday headers. We are going to make sure we only have selected the lines that we want to change, which for this instance is the bottom line. And let's go ahead and let's make it 5 points. We're going to make it a big one. We're going to make it 5 points. Let's pick one of our colors. Let's say blue. Okay. And now let's see what we're working with here. And we have this cute little, way to add a little color to it, but still pretty simple. Because the other thing I wanted to show you here is, see, now that we've added a 5 point, and I did show this in the last video too, but just in case you didn't see that video, when you added this 5 point, and the more you add to it, like if I add, say, change it to 7 points, it gets closer and closer to the font there. So if that's the case, what you can do is you can highlight this, and then we're going to right click, cell options, text, and just center, just vertical justification, change to top, and that will give you some more space. And because we don't have outlines there, I mean, it doesn't look strange. Now, if you had outlines around it, this would be close to the top. It might look a little strange, but it looks pretty good like that. Something else you can do if you want to have, let's say like a whole bar here, you can fill all this in. You could fill in the whole thing there. You can, the cells, you can fill the cells, and let's say you want to make the text white because it's hard to see the black on that. When you come up here to the color, you want to click on this T, which represents text, and now you can edit the actual text and make it white. And there you go. So now you have that filled there. You have the white text. That's the bottom. So let's zoom in so you can see one at a time. That's what one looks like. Again, nice, clean, and simple. And then this is what the other one would look like. Both are cute. Both are nice. And there's plenty of other things that you can do as well. I just wanted to give you a couple ideas. So the last thing I want to do on this monthly calendar before we jump over to our Doggie Themed monthly calendars is I want to show you how you can add some notes over here. Okay, usually you're going to see that on the monthly calendar. Sometimes it's on this side. It's preference. If that's the case, then you would make this your side, your 4, this side your 3 columns, and then you would do the lines over here. Again, totally preference. So what are we going to do when we create lines? If you've been watching the other videos, you know we are going to create a table because this is the easiest way to do it. So create a table. You're going to come up to table, create table. Let's start with 25 rows, and we're going to just do 1 column. And let's just start with that and see how it goes. Let me get my lines back here so I know where I'm going. Okay, so I'm going to start about level with the top of that planner, and I am just going to come down to the bottom margin here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight. You're going to select the entire table. Make sure you select the entire table this way. If you just try to do it this way, there may be hidden rows that you're not seeing right now. So make sure you come down and say select table, or you use the shortcut, which is Option Command A or Alt Control A. Okay, so once that's selected, we're going to go over to our cell styles, and we are going to choose our lines. This again was created back in episode 5 when we did notes pages. This I will use in almost every episode. So if you didn't see how we created that, I would suggest going over to episode 5 to see how we did it. So you can add it in as well. It really will save you a lot of time. I can't show in every single episode how to make it, so we're just going to keep using them. So now, as you can see, what it has done basically is it changed our stroke color to a gray. It changed the size, and it got rid of the vertical strokes. So we just have the horizontal strokes left, which is our lines. So again, I'm going to select the entire table. And we are now going to adjust the size by going to cell options, right click, cell options, rows and columns. And I'm going to say exactly, row height exactly, 7 millimeters. Tab over and click OK. Now we have our lines here. And we just want to line this up. So let's go ahead. I actually want to line it up, I think, with, do I want to make this a little bit smaller? Okay. All right. So with our notes lines being done, I think we are done with our basic calendar here. It is time to hop over to our doggy calendar and spice things up a bit. So when we come over here, we are going to create a new spread. We are going to rename this. Let's call this monthly calendar 1 because we're going to do 2 different versions. Okay, we're going to go through this pretty quickly. So in order to do that, I'm just going to come over here and copy and paste this. Control C or Command C, and then we are going to go paste in place. Okay, so what I want to do is I like this, so I'm just going to change the color to go with our current document. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to remove this bottom one here. So we're going to say 0 for that one, and then we are going to fill this with the pink as well. And we also need to change the font to white. So click the T, change to white. And we had adjusted the vertical alignment because we had that thicker border. So we need to go and change that back. Oops, I'm not in there anymore. And so we're going to go to cell options text, and we're going to go back to center align. Okay, so that's step number 1. All right, everything else I think we're going to basically keep the same. Like I said, this is going to be fairly quick. So what I want to do is I want to add a couple little PNGs here. So we are going to add a cute little PNGs here. There we go. That's pretty cute. A little big maybe, but we can make it a little bit smaller. We got one here. And now we are going to copy and paste it over here. And then I am going to go to Object, Transform, and I am going to go to Flip Horizontally. So it's kind of facing the other way. And then I'm holding Shift while I drag it over so it stays level. Let's move this over a little bit. And now we've just added these cute little paws to give it a little something. And now maybe for this side, I might add another cute little guy here. So there you are, little guy. Okay, so maybe we want to add this cute little guy over here. And he's so cute. Maybe we can move this down a bit so that we're on the bottom here. And you know what? Maybe I'll get rid of this top line. And let's see how that looks. Oh, he looks cute, doesn't he? Okay, so that's one option. Again, you're adding a little something something without going way overboard. Now let's see option number 2, which is probably my favorite one. What I'm going to do is I am going to right click. I am going to duplicate. I'm going to duplicate this spread rather than copy and pasting. So let's go ahead and duplicate it. And I'm going to rename it as monthly calendar 2. What I want to do is I want to have the 3 days over on this side and the 4 days over on that side. So I'm going to just let's just get rid of this stuff that we're not needing for right now. Get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that. Okay, so rather than shifting everything and retyping everything, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to add a column over here to the right. The first thing I need to do is I need to make sure that this box, the frame, is big enough to hold the new column. So I'm just going to drag the frame over. Just remember the frame and the table are actually 2 separate elements. So next I'm going to double click into the table. I'm going to wait until I get my arrow at the top so I can click to highlight the entire column. I'm going to right click come down to insert and column. I'm going to choose insert one column to the right and click OK. And it should insert one the same size. It's basically just duplicating the column. And so I am going to have to go ahead and change these dates, but I can just highlight these three, copy. Now highlight these three and Control V or Command V to paste, and it's added in there. Same thing here, copy, paste. You can type it in too, that is totally up to you, and I'm just going to go ahead, highlight the column, and I'm going to delete column. And then I'm going to adjust this so that there's no issues. And I'm going to drag this over to the inside margin. Okay, because I'm going to be adding something on this side. So that's how I'm going to adjust this. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Of course, the days of the week will have to be adjusted, but this is just an example, so I'm not worried about that right now. Next thing I'm going to want to do is I want this month to come down over here on the side. And I'm also going to want it to be the month and the year. So what I can do, I'm going to bring this down so I have room. And now that it's typed, all you're going to do is hover, come around the corner of the text box until you get that little double arrow. Click and hold, and we're going to shift around, or we're going to rotate around. And I'm going to hold shift so that it stays at perfect 45-degree angles. And obviously we're going to do that at 90. And I am going to bring this over here. I want this to be essentially pretty big over there. I will adjust the size of the font afterwards. I just want to continue adjusting the rest of this first. So because I don't have any headers up top, we're going to bring these up to the top margin. I'm just using the arrow. I just highlighted. I'm just using the arrow to go up. Now I want to add my lines down here, my notes section. I don't want to get rid of it completely. I just want to add it on the bottom here. I am going to create a table. It is going to be 3 by 1, and I'm going to go ahead and add that down here. Select the whole table. Select the whole table. We are going to come over to cell styles, and we are going to select lines. And then I'm going to right click, cell options, rows and columns, and we are going to make this 7 millimeters. I'm trying to keep things as consistent as I can throughout the planner. Let's see what I'm working with here. It looks a little tight. Even if I bring this down, I feel like that's a little tight, the top row. So let's go ahead and let's get rid of this top line. So we're got with the top one selected, we're going to hit 0 point to get rid of that top line, and let's see. Okay, I think that's better. So we're just gonna have 3 lines on the bottom. Okay, so now I'm going to simply, click, hold, drag, holding Option or Alt to copy over here, and then we can just double click into our table on the side. When we get our double arrow, go ahead and drag over to make that the right width. Now let's hit W and see what it looks like. All right, that looks good. Okay, so now obviously this is a little bit small for this section. So I'm gonna go ahead and make this a bit bigger. Actually, you know what I wanna do first? I wanna add a PNG here. I wanna add a cute little doggy PNG. So, which one's my doggy? So I'm gonna add my little doggy over here. I want him to be maybe he could be a little bit smaller, just a little bit smaller. Just to give us a little gap there. We'll bring him down just a little bit so we're not so much in the corner. Okay, so now I want to make this bigger until it feels like it fits well, like it's appropriate in that spot. I feel like that looks good, but I don't know why it looks so far over there. So I'm just going to manually kind of center it there. Maybe I'm going to bring it up a bit. You get the idea. It's just to show you possibilities of different things that you can do. So let's look at our first calendar and then see how we changed it. So our first calendar was a more standard calendar, I think, that I've seen. And then we jazz it up a little bit just by moving a few things around. It still has all the main elements. And those are 3 different calendar options. Again, very simple, nothing crazy about them. And now that you know how to make a calendar page and you have some different ideas for options, it's time for you to get to making yours. If you have any idea for something you would want to include in your calendar and are not sure how to go about it, leave a comment below and I will do my best to help you in any way that I can. In the next episode, we will be creating a monthly dashboard. This is obviously intended to be used in each month. However, you can apply the same concepts and design elements into other types of dashboards as well. You won't want to miss it, so make sure you hit subscribe and the bell notification, and I will see you in the next one.